Silent Betrayals. Chapter 1: Dark Revelations. The sunset painted the sky in shades of orange and pink, creating a serene scene in Sarah's backyard. A gentle breeze rustled the leaves of the trees, composing a tranquil symphony. However, this calmness contrasted with the storm brewing inside the house. Sarah Mitchell, a woman with expressive eyes and light brown hair, moved through the living room, consumed by tumultuous thoughts. Restlessness urged her to probe beyond the calm facade that permeated her marriage to Jack. It was as if an unknown shadow intruded on the happiness they had built. Sarah, an investigative journalist who, despite taking a break to care for her young son, never stopped investigating from her home. Jack Mitchell, a man with a serious demeanor, beard, hair, and eyes as black as the night, worked at a tool factory. His long hours away from home, both at work and supposedly at the bar with colleagues, raised suspicions after days of strange behavior. This sparked an overwhelming curiosity in Sarah, leading to an audacious idea. Strategically placed hidden cameras became her silent allies. Walking cautiously, Sarah headed to the central computer in the room. Her hands trembled slightly as she typed the password, a gesture now carrying the weight of guilt, knowing she was invading her husband's privacy. Upon reviewing the footage, Sarah witnessed Jack spending hours on whispered phone conversations. His eyes, once filled with tenderness, now concealed indecipherable secrets. He typed coded messages on his computer, a behavior that heightened Sarah's curiosity and apprehension. However, Sarah's suspicion turned to shock when she discovered Jack always near his tool cabinet in the garage. Moments later, she found a box containing a diary and a carefully hidden USB drive. The diary held encrypted notes, codes resembling those from a spy thriller. With growing unease, she observed how Jack crafted plans and led a double life he never shared with her. The written messages were pieces of a macabre puzzle, a script being written behind the scenes of their everyday lives. With each page read, Sarah felt a part of the reality she knew shattering, and what intrigued her the most were numerous messages mentioning someone with the initials AT. Checking the USB drive, Sarah's breath caught. Jack, her husband, was allegedly involved in brutal crimes. The images showed bodies and coordinates from different locations, obscure transactions, and a plot unfolding like a suspense movie, but with the painful reality of her own life. Horrified, Sarah saw that Jack had detailed files on the victims he had killed. The images not only depicted moments before the violent acts, but also where he hid the bodies. Hand-drawn maps indicated isolated locations, dark woods, and remote spots where darkness swallowed Jack's macabre secrets. Sarah's eyes remained fixed on the computer screen, absorbing every detail, every crime of the man she had shared her bed with. Tears rolled down her cheeks as the brutal truth unfolded before her. The last images were the most terrifying. In a disturbing monologue, Jack revealed details about his crimes. He explained his twisted motivations, like a mind immersed in darkness. Sarah listened, shocked, as the person she thought she knew confessed unthinkable atrocities. The twilight outside became a silent spectator of this distressing revelation. The room, once filled with deceptive serenity, was now enveloped in a disturbing silence. What Sarah had discovered was not just a conventional betrayal, it was the revelation of a monster who had shared her life. The night descended, but Sarah remained motionless, absorbing the impact of the revelation. The chapter that began as the discovery of a personal secret now evolved into an internal struggle of how to confront this unfolding nightmare. The next step would be to confront Jack and find out if she and her son were in real danger at the hands of the man she called her husband. Chapter 2: Unmasking the Deceit. The night advanced as Sarah processed the avalanche of disturbing information she had just uncovered. Every frame, every virtual confession recorded by Jack echoed in her mind like a nightmare. However, with the revelation came suddenly to her mind the fact that she had been obsessed for many weeks investigating a serial killer who would have killed many victims from 2004 to 2007, and it didn't leave her mind the fact that what she had just discovered about her husband fit very well with what she had been investigating for so long. Sarah could no longer live in the shadow of the man who once made her believe in such an elaborate lie. After a sleepless night, Sarah decided it was time to confront Jack. She could no longer ignore the fact that the man beside her was a completely different person than she believed to know. Exposing the truth was not just a matter of her own safety, but also the safety of her son, Ethan. At dawn, Sarah controlled her emotions with all her might and assumed a normal demeanor for Jack to avoid suspicion. They had breakfast and took Ethan to visit his grandfather, with the excuse that she also needed to visit him. Once she left in her car, she sought the help of Will, her trusted lawyer. Will Belfort, an elderly gentleman, was more than a legal advocate to her. He had become a confidant over the years of friendship, as he was a friend of her father and always helped her in her investigations. Sarah knew she needed guidance from someone who understood the gravity of the situation. As they sat in his office, Sarah shared with Will the shocking images and confessions she had found. Will's face turned pale as he witnessed the disturbing truth unfolding before him. "My God, Sarah, this is much more than I could imagine," said Will, shaking his head in disbelief. "We need to act with caution. The priority now is to ensure your safety and Ethan's." Sarah, who hadn't slept all night and was almost bursting from the pressure, finally had a place to pour out everything that was happening and fell asleep. After resting, she focused again, and with Will, they began to devise a plan to confront Jack and ensure he no longer posed a threat to their lives. The first step was to secure Sarah and Ethan's legal protection. Will explained the procedures to obtain a restraining order against Jack, using the evidence provided by the videos and documents found. This would be crucial to prevent Jack from approaching Sarah and Ethan, at least temporarily. At the same time, they explored options for reporting Jack to the authorities. Will contacted a private detective specializing in violent crimes, ensuring that the information would be handled with the utmost confidentiality. Collaboration with the authorities was crucial to ensure that Jack was held accountable for his actions. "The less he knows about what we're doing, the better," warned Will. "Let's keep him in the dark until we have all the pieces in place." However, Sarah's primary concern was Ethan's immediate safety. The escape plan became a crucial part of the strategy. Will suggested that, while the legal process was underway, it would be prudent to find a safe location for Sarah and Ethan. "Sarah, you and Ethan need to disappear temporarily," explained Will. "We're talking about a dangerous man here, and we can't underestimate what he is capable of. A temporary change of identity and a new location may be the best option." Sarah agreed with Will's suggestion, understanding the gravity of the situation. They began working on a strategy to create a new identity for Sarah and Ethan, ensuring there were no traces for Jack to follow. Will contacted professionals specializing in witness protection and security to ensure the process was carried out with the utmost discretion. Meanwhile, Sarah, internally, couldn't accept that she had been deceived for so long by her husband. The guilt she felt was so great that, without thinking, she went to her house to confront Jack. The chapter that began with the revelation of a dark secret now unfolded into a complex drama of legal strategies, physical protection, and the search for a new identity. Sarah was about to embark on a dangerous journey where the stakes were high, and the survival of her family depended on the precision of every move. Chapter 3: The Inevitable Confrontation. On her way home, Sarah felt a mix of nervousness and determination. The time had come to face the man she had once called her husband. Her racing heart reflected the tension permeating the air. Jack, still unaware of the trap he was about to face, arrived a few minutes later. He greeted Sarah with a smile, inquiring about Ethan, attempting to maintain appearances. Sarah, looking him in the eyes, suddenly realized the mistake she had made by going home alone without informing Will, and once again decided to continue pretending that everything was normal. Dad asked for Ethan to spend the night with him and Mom. They were really missing him, she fabricated. Jack found it odd but didn't delve further, only asking about their dinner plans. Sarah then went up to her room and messaged Will, explaining the mistake she had made by going home alone and that Jack might already be suspicious of what was happening. After contacting Will for help, Sarah felt it was time to confront Jack, descending the stairs with a look that Jack had never witnessed before. The room fell silent as Sarah began to present the evidence to Jack. She showcased the videos, documents, and confessions that had been meticulously gathered. Initially, Jack denied everything, rejecting the accusations as baseless fantasies. "You're losing your mind, Sarah." "This is absurd," protested Jack, his voice laden with false indignation. Sarah, however, remained steadfast. Every word from Jack only increased her determination. She continued to unravel the evidence, leading him through the labyrinth of lies he had constructed. Jack, realizing that his schemes were being exposed, began to grow restless. The tension reached its peak when Sarah showed images of his victims, not just from a distant past but individuals present in their everyday lives who had somehow discovered something compromising about Jack. At that moment, Jack's expression changed. The look of despair vanished, replaced by an alienated smile of someone who, finally after years, was free to reveal their true nature. He realized there was no escape. Motivated by anger and concern for her son, Sarah confronted the man who had once been her husband and the father of her child. It was then that the atmosphere became electrically charged. Jack became more aggressive, heading to the kitchen towards the cutlery counter, grabbing a knife, and advancing towards Sarah. "You just had to stop working, stop investigating all the time, and take care of our son, but no." The incredible journalist Sarah Mitchell had to go all the way, snarled Jack, his threat laden with hatred. "Now you've ruined everything. I had even given up on the idea of killing you to erase the traces, as Alex wanted, but then came Ethan, and I thought, why not? Let's have a happy family life. Now you've messed it all up, and I'll finish what I should have done a long time ago." At that moment, Will, who was outside the house listening to the entire conversation, prepared to intervene. He had a recording device in hand, documenting every word and movement of Jack. However, before he could step in, Jack, realizing the noose was tightening, took a desperate action. With a swift movement, Jack approached Sarah, the knife pointing in her direction. Despite the fear, Sarah stood her ground. "Is this how you always dealt with your problems, Jack?" "With violence and threats," she said, facing him with courage and trying to buy more time for the police to arrive. Will, sensing that the situation was about to spiral out of control, entered the house confronting Jack. Cornered and seemingly without an apparent escape, Jack became even more unstable. The imminent threat hung in the air when, suddenly, sirens approached the location. Will, acting quickly, had alerted the police moments earlier, anticipating the possibility of Jack reacting violently. The sound of sirens seemed to trigger an instinctive reaction in Jack. Without hesitation, he delivered a swift blow to Will, hitting him in the chest with force before he could react. Will fell to the ground, momentarily stunned by the unexpected violence. Jack, now completely out of control, redirected his attention to Sarah. He pushed her into a corner of the room, the knife still in hand. The tension reached a breaking point, and Sarah knew she was facing real danger. Then, in the darkest moment, the doors swung open, revealing a team of police officers who stormed in. The atmosphere, previously filled with imminent threat, transformed into controlled chaos. The trained officers, accustomed to handling high-risk situations, acted quickly to neutralize the threat. Jack, realizing his last move had failed, attempted to resist. A brief struggle ensued, but police strength prevailed. With handcuffs placed on his wrists, Jack finally faced the consequences of his actions. Will, recovering from the blow, looked at Sarah with a pale expression, realizing that the chest injury, though deep, had not affected any vital organs. The police, assessing the scene, took Jack into custody. The heavy atmosphere now gave way to a collective sigh of relief. The chapter that began as the exposure of hidden truths now unfolded into a physical confrontation, a battle for control amid chaos. Sarah's courage, combined with Will's quick action and police intervention, resulted in Jack's capture and, finally, the promise of justice for the victims of his crimes. Chapter 4: Shadows of the Past. After the tumultuous confrontation with Jack, the environment was filled with a sense of relief mixed with the residual tension of the ordeal. However, something lingered in the air, a shadow from the past that had not yet fully revealed itself. Sarah's sharp mind began connecting the dots, recalling recordings from hidden cameras where Jack whispered on the phone with a mysterious figure. This person, who had remained in the shadows until now, seemed to play a crucial role in Jack's hidden life, and the name Alex he mentioned while threatening made much sense with the A.T. she found in his notes. Will, still recovering from the blow delivered by Jack, re-examined the evidence. This person is more than just a casual accomplice. It seems to be someone with whom Jack has a long history, someone willing to help him at any cost. Guided by sharp intuition and the need to protect her family, Sarah decided to investigate further. She accessed phone records and, with Will's help, identified the number Jack frequently contacted. It was time to reveal the face behind the shadow. By tracing the number, Sarah discovered the identity of the person who had been in the sights of her cameras, conspiring in the shadows: Alex Turner. A name from Jack's past, a partner in his dark undertakings. As Sarah delved into information about Alex, she found that he was an expert in clandestine operations and had an extensive network of contacts in the underworld. This discovery shed new light on Jack's escape plan during the confrontation, explaining how he was aware of Sarah's movements. Tension rose again when Sarah and Will realized that Alex was not just a distant threat but a danger literally very close, as a shadow moved stealthily in the vicinity. Sarah's keen perception captured a suspicious movement in the window reflections, seeing a figure that, upon realizing it had been spotted, began to run, aware that it had been discovered and, knowing that its actions could compromise Jack's rescue plans, disappeared into the night. The pursuit began. Driven by determination and the desire to protect her family, Sarah chased after Alex, while Will, even recovering from the previous blow, didn't hesitate to join the search. The cat-and-mouse game unfolded in the empty streets of the neighborhood. Footsteps echoed through the deserted streets, with Sarah and Will chasing the fleeting shadow that was Alex. Adrenaline pulsed, but Sarah knew she couldn't allow Alex to escape. He was the key to Jack's future plans and represented a real threat to her family's safety. The race through the narrow streets continued until, in a tense moment, Sarah lost sight of him. Night fell over the city as Sarah and Will, accompanied by the reassuring presence of the police, processed what had just happened. The threat posed by Alex was real, but Sarah's determination and collaboration with the authorities indicated that they were willing to face any challenge that came their way. Chapter 5: The Prolonged Shadow. After the pursuit of Alex through the city streets, Sarah and Will returned to the relative calm of their temporary lives, knowing that the threat had not been completely neutralized. While planning to enter the witness protection program to ensure their safety, the quest for truth continued. As they revisited the files found during the investigation, Sarah and Will began to uncover the motives behind the murders committed by Jack and Alex years ago. The emerging story revealed a complex scheme of betrayal and greed. Years prior, Jack and Alex were involved in criminal activities that led them to cross paths with powerful and dangerous people. These victims, now identified in recordings and documents, were not innocent but figures involved in illicit schemes that threatened the interests of Jack and Alex. The motivation for the murders, it seemed, was related to a plan to cover tracks and eliminate incriminating witnesses. The victims knew information that could put Jack and Alex behind bars, and the only way to ensure their own safety was to silence them permanently. As Sarah and Will delved into these details, the unsettling reality of the connection between them and Jack and Alex became clear. Sarah, through her profession as an investigative journalist, inadvertently crossed paths with these criminals while exploring stories that revealed their illegal activities. Their plan to get to know Sarah began when they realized she was getting too close to the truth. The whispered conversations on the phone and the secret meetings of Jack and Alex were not just about the crimes committed in the past, but also about the journalist who was about to expose them. Jack's escape plan during the confrontation was not just a desperate attempt to avoid arrest, but also part of a broader scheme that Alex had begun to develop. It was evident that Jack and Alex were willing to do anything to prevent Sarah from testifying against them and revealing the truth to the public. While Sarah and Will worked to understand the extent of Jack and Alex's plan, time continued to tick relentlessly. The decision to enter the witness protection program became inevitable, a crucial measure to ensure the safety of Sarah, Will, and Ethan in the face of the persistent threat. The day of the move to a secure location arrived, but the tension was far from disappearing. The uncertainty of the future and the awareness that Jack and Alex were willing to do anything to find them lingered like persistent shadows. While Sarah, Will, and Ethan began a temporary life under altered identities, Alex set in motion his plan to rescue Jack from prison. Conspiring behind the scenes, he infiltrated security systems and contacts within the prison institution. The prison environment vibrated with electric tension as Alex Turner, moving like a shadow in the middle of the night, prepared to free his partner Jack Reynolds from prison. He knew that the success of this operation would not only determine Jack's fate but also decide the future course of their intertwined lives. The plan began to unfold when Alex, meticulously planning every detail, managed to infiltrate the ranks of the prison institution. Using old connections and favors accumulated over the years, he gained access to vital information and manipulated the loopholes in the security system. The first stage of the plan involved creating an elaborate distraction. Alex, using his unparalleled manipulation skills, enlisted other inmates and provoked a violent brawl in the prison yard. The resulting chaos demanded an immediate response from the authorities, diverting attention to the turmoil while Alex advanced to the second phase of his operation. With privileged access to security systems, Alex began manipulating cameras and disabling alarms. He knew every weak point in the prison, every blind spot he could exploit to carry out the planned escape. Jack, aware that his destiny was being shaped by Alex, patiently awaited his imminent release. He approached Jack's cell, where a corrupt guard, previously bribed by Alex, was on standby. The guard, an accomplice in the escape plot, silently allowed Alex to enter Jack's cell. Arriving at the crucial point of the escape, Alex activated the last component of his plan, the manipulation of records and digital files. He meticulously erased any trace of Jack's escape, obscuring the events that had occurred that night. It was as if Jack had never left his cell. The two men escaped through the corridors, past locked gates, and emerged into the shadows beyond the prison walls. The secure environment was shaken when news of a prison break reached Sarah and Will. Tension grew with each passing moment, and the feeling that the dark past was about to catch up with them became unavoidable. The sense of vulnerability reached unbearable levels, but Sarah was determined not to let the darkness of the past prevail. The following weeks turned into a frenzied hunt. Sarah and Will followed the clues left by Jack and Alex. Each step was a race against time, knowing that the inevitable confrontation was approaching. The trail led them back to the house where Sarah and Jack used to live together. Upon arriving at the house, Sarah and Will felt the atmosphere charged with tension. Each step resonated like an echo of the choices that brought them to that point. Inside the residence, Sarah initiated a meticulous search for additional evidence, determined to ensure that Jack and Alex did not leave traces that could haunt them. While Sarah combed through the rooms, the house revealed itself as a labyrinth of memories and imminent dangers. Will, alert, remained on guard as the shadows seemed to contort, announcing the silent presence of Jack and Alex, who observed from a hiding place. The moment of confrontation arrived when Sarah, engrossed in the search, was surprised by the sudden appearance of Jack and Alex. Silence gave way to chaos as the villains, emerging from the shadows, armed themselves against Sarah and Will. The battle inside the house became a frenzied dance of calculated movements and desperate impulses. Heroically, Will faced Jack, while Sarah, driven by adrenaline, dodged Alex's attacks. Each room witnessed the collision of forces that transcended the physical. Tragedy reached its peak when Jack, without hesitation, attacked Will ferociously. The hand-to-hand combat became a fight for survival, but Jack's tenacity prevailed, resulting in the devastating loss of Will. Sarah, now filled with a mixture of despair and anger, found a spark of determination within herself. In the most intense turn of events, she managed to seize one of Jack and Alex's weapons, reversing the dynamics of the battle. The explosion of adrenaline reached its climax when Sarah, defying the shadows that loomed over her, confronted Jack and Alex with a steady aim. The roles reversed as she, once the hunted, became the hunter. The fight culminated in a shootout where, even though she was shot in the leg and shoulder, Sarah managed to fire at Jack and Alex, who faced the fate they themselves had plotted. The sound of gunfire reverberated in the house, marking the end of the tumultuous journey. In a moment of fierce determination, Sarah, with tears in her eyes, put an end to the threat that had haunted her life. The house, a silent witness to everything, plunged back into silence, this time permeated by the relief and pain that mingled in Sarah's bittersweet victory. The darkness that enveloped them dissipated, leaving behind the traces of a battle that changed the course of their lives forever. The dust settled in the now silent house. The price of truth and justice manifested itself in the absence of Will, who had sacrificed his life in the pursuit of a safer future for Sarah and Ethan. Sarah, wounded and exhausted, remained among the wreckage of the battle. The reality of loss weighed heavily on her, but at the same time, a sense of relief and resolution emerged. Jack and Alex, the shadows that had haunted her life, were defeated. The final chapter of this tumultuous story concluded with Sarah facing the consequences of her journey. The truth, although it brought pain and loss, freed her and her son for a new life. Amid the debris and sorrow, Sarah found a light indicating the path toward a possible new beginning.